Go figure. It's 7 o'clock, Tuesday, June 20th, 2023. And we're here for another Marketing Made Easy. Welcome to the show. My name is Joey Ragona, and I'm so blessed to be here for the last, I don't know, it's been 3.5 years and maybe even four. It's just amazing to be here. I was just talking to my good friend Eddie Sant today, who has started a new epic show, by the way, on LinkedIn on Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesdays at 12 o'clock, by the way. And we were just talking about that, and he was like reminding me of the commitment that we've had over the last 4 years or so, right, Scott? Like the commitment, that's part of the entrepreneurial journey. We were just talking about that in the green room, about the 4 C's that we follow from Dan Sullivan, which are, and I'll let you repeat them.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, that's a conversation you're having before. You're like, oops, we got to go live. That always happens. It was commitment, and you got to commit to anything. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's building a program.
And these are in order, by the way. They have to be in this order. Just I want to make sure that everybody hears that.
So you make a commitment to whatever it is. And we were just talking about Pomodoros. I had to get some copy written, and I made a commitment to do the Pomodoros. And then the next thing, because once you make a commitment, the fears show up, the anxiety, the voices, the imposter syndrome, all the stuff. And that's where the courage needs to commit. You have to have the courage to follow through on the commitment you just made, no matter how difficult, no matter how challenging, no matter how many of the enemy, whether it's your internal enemy or external enemy or Facebook or anything that gets in the way of going, yeah, you don't really need to do that. And then capability is the next one. You got to really put in the time to learn it, to do it, to practice it. You said we can do lives like we don't even think about it anymore. Why? We've done 177 of them in a row, and we figured it out. We show up and do it. There's no stretch in it because we have the capability, and that gives us the courage to continue on with the commitment. And then all of that combined is confidence. So again, you said you can show up anywhere and talk about dream clients without even thinking about it. And that's because for 177 weeks, we've been talking about dream clients and heart-centered marketing and mindset and strategy and systems and this. So anybody can do it. We thought commit to it, have the courage to get through the difficult part of learning something new, learn it, be capable, then you've got the confidence to start all over again. Go.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's part of what I want to talk about tonight. I wanted to share the my structure of the stages of heart-centered entrepreneurship from my worldview. And, as I've grown in the past little while, listening to, reading Dan's books and the people that I'm involved with in masterminds and listening to them and just not only that, it's really more of listening to the clients themselves and learning more about them and where their stages are and recognizing things that have to now be up leveled into this conversation. But that's what I wanted to talk about because commitment, it's so funny because so many people think that they need to figure out how to do something in order to have the commitment to do it. They're like, you know what, let me figure this out and then I'm going to put money into it, or I'm going to quit my job, or I'm going to, whatever it is, right? Let me figure it out. Well, you can't figure it out. You can't do that first. It's impossible. And then it's the confidence, like, well, let me figure it out so I can be confident in what I'm doing so that I can commit. Totally out of order. And like once I learned that those 4 C's from Dan is like, you know what? I can see it right away in people, and it just makes me think, okay, who are the dream clients? Can I see a commitment from them? Are they ready to go so I could actually help them? Because that's who I am. I'm that person who commits. Like I was saying before on the show, before we started, is like, you can't half jump out of a plane. Like you're that's it. You're committed and that's it. So, I know you're like that too, aren't you? Like when you commit, you commit. Like how many things have you done in the last little while, including what you're on now, like your new regime of nutrition?
Yeah, again, I did 608 days of yoga straight. I didn't miss a day at 608. When I took Atlas, I committed to 12 weeks that I would not miss a week. I would not miss a lesson. I would not miss an assignment. Nothing. Did it. this nutritarian detox. I went for 6 weeks and said, you know what? I'm going to do another 6 weeks. Why? Because
Cool.
it's working so well. And it's about the commitment. In the beginning, yeah, there was fear and a little anxiety of, I've tried things before that didn't work. Is this going to be another one? The trepidation. And then it was the courage to do it and continue with it. And capability was after I made the recipes and this and the shopping list and figured it out, I had the capability now, the confidence to go do it again and go deeper with it.
Right.
And I like what you said, Joey, here is that you can see the commitment from the dream client. And I think that's a really important point because just because a dream client is the dream client and fits it, I think that's an important piece is are they committed? Because they could be, oh, yeah, this person is exactly who I like. I'd hang out with them all day and this, and I'd love talking about this and have them on the Oasis. But at the end of the day, they won't commit. They won't commit to doing it. So I think that becomes for anybody a really important part of, are you willing to commit to what we're going to do, or are you going to waste your money? Let's just get rid of it now and don't even waste your money if you're not going to commit to this.
Right.
Hi, Collie.
Hey, who's that? Holly?
Collie.
Oh, Collie. Okay, cool. I can't see it here, but hey, Collie, good to see you. Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know what the word is, but it's, for the lack of a better word, it's a half commitment where you're like, okay, I'm going to invest in this, or I'm going to buy this thing, or I'm going to do this, and then the like you said, like the fear sets in, and I've seen it through people who've come into my world, and they're like, yeah, I'm committed, and then the fear sets in of like, well, I don't really know how this is going to work. Is it going to work for me? And then they go back to, well, this is not going to work, and they back out or something like that. And there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying that I'm very aware of when it's happening and you can see it. So it's easier now to pinpoint, will this person get through the fear? Are they that person? So I'm not focused on the commitment when I'm making sales or whatever it is. It's like, because we've been through all that crap before. You can make anybody pretty much do anything that you want them to if you're a pretty good salesperson,
Right.
which I'm not, but I'm pretty sure we could, do something. But it's when they get to the fear. So I focus on that area of, let me ask questions or have conversations that's based around the courage piece. Let me see how I can pull out what is their courage really about? Because the capability is like easy.
Yeah.
Capability is easy, bro. Like if you can get past, right, the commitment and the fear, even though you do something and it doesn't work, whatever it is, and you bounce back and you go, damn, that didn't work. Like, I'm not really sure this is going to work anymore. Right. And you're back to the fear and the courage, but the commitment is always there. It's the backbone of everything. You go, no, I'm committed to this because I want to quit my job. I don't want to work for somebody else, or I'm doing this for my family. I want my kids to grow up with the, blah, blah, blah. Right. So the commitment drives you. And so that's why I focus everything on how can I pull out, is this person really have the courage to go through all of the hardships?
Couple of questions here that come to mind. The first one is, if we look at the chain of beliefs and we look at the first stages are the emotional connection to where the person is at emotionally in the bar stool moment. And then where do you think, we talk about you talk about the must-have belief and then the tipping point. And then,
Yeah.
of course, the end belief is Joey's the only one that I can possibly hire to teach me this stuff. Where do you see that commitment thing coming in the chain of beliefs? Because I think it does. It just...
I think it comes right at the end of the belief. This is, if you're talking about the beliefs in order to buy, the commitment is, there's two areas for me personally in my chain of beliefs where I'm going to address the commitment piece. But so the first one is actually the number two, which is right at the end. Well, I'm committed because I believe all these things now, and I'm committed to go to do this. Okay, that's the simple one. The other one, which is kind of hidden, is when they first meet me on that bar stool, because that's their commitment. Like I said, I've explained my dream client a few times, the sigmoid curve, and they've crashed and all that, and they are already committed themselves to learning something from someone who they don't know yet, which is me now coming in, to a guide that's going to help them out of the hole. So they've already made that commitment, and now they just have to get the right person. And then they go through my chain of beliefs, and then they commit with money, time, energy, and all that.
The other part of it's not really a question, it's more of a comment, because this, what we just shared, the 4 C's, can be used for devious ways. Like we were talking earlier before we got on about a webinar and the whole NLP part of, you've committed to be here on the call. And if you're really committed to your life work, and if you're really committed, and it's almost like a brainwashing kind of thing. So this isn't a convince you that you need to make a commitment, and if you don't, you're a piece of garbage and you're worthless and your family's going to be out on the streets. This is more of, look, if you really want to do this and you're ready to do it, then there's a commitment involved. It's kind of like, by the way, you have to be committed to this, and by the way, you have to have money in order to make the investment go.
Yeah, like, when I hired my first coach back when I told the story before, right? And I made that commitment to do it. And then he challenged me to show up in Denver that same week. It was like 3 days out. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? He's like, no, this is part of the test. Like, if you're committed, you'll be here in Denver. It wasn't like he was going to fire me or I wasn't going to do, the coaching or whatever, but that was a commitment. Like, you're right. I'm committed to this. I'm going to make it happen. And at that time, bro, it was the scariest thing for me because I wasn't so great at traveling on my own and making all the plans and all that kind of stuff, especially within 3 days. So totally right. Totally right. I want to get into...
Kay just joined us. Hi, Kay.
Hey, Kay. Good to see you here. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. All right. Soaking in the wisdom. Today, I want to talk about the stages of entrepreneurship as according to Joey. So this is the way that I see it.
Hold on. There's actually something you're going to share that's according to you.
Yes. Go figure, right?
Go figure. Because normally you give credit to everybody in the known, unknown, live, and dead universe. And that's something I always like to compliment you about is, even if you're like, I know it came from somebody else. It's never like, oh, yeah, I came up with this. It's like Sullivan or Dean Jackson or, Evan Pagan or Rich Sheffrin or whoever it is. And one of the things I really appreciate is that. And then when it is yours, you're like, okay, according to me, go.
Thank you. So play along with me, and even you, Scott. I'd like to know which one you believe you are in, which phase of the entrepreneurship here. There's 4 stages that I've identified, and I am going to be updating this again from what we just talked about a little bit, but it's pretty close. And if you're playing the home game and you want to share your thoughts about this, I'd love to hear from you too, or we'd love to hear from you. The first, what I want to share here is, this is a whole document here that I created, and it's kind of like, so somebody could look at this and decide where they are in the heart-centered marketing system or within my world. And so it does a couple things. It actually helps them identify where they are so they know if I can help them or not. And it repels a lot of the people that I can't help, which is, we're going to talk about that first, which is the inspired people. We're going to break these down. But the first thing I want to share with you is this piece here, which goes across all of them. And this is really important. And you'll recognize this, Scott, as, the Dream Client DNA, parts of the Dream Client DNA. And so this is what it is. So I'm sharing with the world what I believe, or what I want. I shouldn't say believe, which is what I want in a dream client, that they're goal-oriented, they're driven by purpose, not by profit. They are transparent in everything that they do. They believe in themselves. They're resilient. They are decisive. They have a giving spirit, loves simplicity. They're freedom over fancy and constant improvement. And there's more, but these are main pillars for me. And as you can see right away, if somebody reads that who's not anything like that, or just money driven or something, they're not going to identify with this. So that's the first part of repelling. Do you want to input on that, or questions or feedback before we go on?
No, that's pretty self-explanatory. So go on.
Okay. So the first one is the inspired. And the inspired person is at the beginning stages. And they are people who are just beginning. They don't have any income, and they're always going down all these rabbit holes. They're pulled in all these directions. We just talked about courage, right? So they're very fearful. But I'm not sure if they're committed yet. This is where I'm playing with all this now, because they're inspired. They go in and they might buy, buy Kajabi for the 30-day trial and say, this isn't working, I'm out, right? So they're inspired by the thing, but they're not committed. And so they want fear, and then they want proof of everything. They want a step-by-step system. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with having a step-by-step system or anything like this, but the inspired wants it right now. And they want wins. They want results right now because they're looking for the proof. They're looking for, I'm not going to continue with this, which means they're not committed, right? Unless they get proof, which means that, again, they're not committed and they don't have the capability. So we're going right back to committed, and no, we're not committed. And they're unwilling to invest in themselves first, which means, again, right back to commitment. It's like, I'm not going to hire you, Scott, to coach me until I make money. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And they avoid the deep work. So they're paralyzed by perfection. They want to always get it right. And you know me, I break a lot of eggs. I throw a lot of spaghetti at the wall. And so a person like this, there's nothing, again, when I'm talking about these things, these are not bad people. They're just people that I can't personally work with because my superpowers do not relate to this. And it will be a major conflict. And their desire is really to finally start getting money. That's what they want. These are the inspired people. Now let's talk about this. Do you see anything there, or any feedback? Can you see where my anti-avatars are, or anything like that?
Oh, I can definitely see your anti-avatar because they don't have any income. If they don't have any income, then they can't really commit to making an investment, because without an income, without money, then how are you going to make an investment? And
well, wait, hold on a minute. Like, that's not entirely true, because it's not my avatar's not money. Like, so for example, okay, if I have a person who says, I don't have any money, or I don't make money, but I'm committed. I'm going to take a loan on my house, or I'm going to take out $10,000 on my credit card. Not because I'm doing it. Hey, do you got a credit card? None of that crap. But they're like, you know what? I'm committed to this. I'm going to sell my car because, dude, I would take that person on if they are in. So it's not they have to have money.
I agree.
Cool.
Totally. 100%. So, now we're looking, your anti-avatar is, they want the proof system step by step, or they're not going to do anything.
Yes.
And the paralyzed by perfection, and it's unwilling to invest in themselves first as well. And
yeah, that's the piece. So it's like, well, wait, let me make some money, and then I will invest in you, or whatever, or invest in myself. It's not about me, but it's about themselves first. And if you look at this is not just about me, but it's also about, like, when I showed the sigmoid curve, right? When I said the people, when they begin in this world, they're at the top, and they're actually on their way down to the first challenge, the first crash, the first failure, right? And that is the inspired person. And the only way that I identify my dream clients is when they crash and they're like, I'm not giving up. That, to me, is a committed person, which goes back to your first question, is where's they fit in the chain of beliefs? And that's why I said, for me, it's two areas.
Yeah.
So they're proving to me already by not giving up, because most inspired people, like, hey, this online thing looks good, are out. You and I both know that when they get down to that first crash, right?
Yeah.
So are you in the inspired? Do you identify with that? Okay, cool. No. And anybody else, by the way, there's no wrong answer here. I want to share something with you. When I share these things and it triggers you or something in whatever way, or you think that it's wrong, whatever, I learned, again, I'll give Dan Sullivan credit of this. Everything begins from the truth. I want you to think about that. Everything begins from the truth. If you identify the truth of where you are in this journey, there's no wrong or right. Like, in being an inspired person doesn't mean it's wrong. It means this is where I am, and I'm going to prove to myself and to anybody else that I am committed to get to the next stage, which is the believer. But you're committed. You can be an inspired person and be committed. You can have all of those things, but you're willing to sacrifice the proof, and let's go back to the slide. You're willing to sacrifice a lot of those things, the immediate results. So you could start out as an inspired and say, well, I need proof. And then they go through the Atlas chain of beliefs with me or something and going, you know what? I can't give you proof until you go through 12 weeks with me. How's that? Okay, you know what? I'm going to go do that. Right?
Yep.
And then they go through it and they don't get the result that they wanted. They didn't make any money because they're unlearning stuff. And they're like, you know what? It doesn't really matter. I'm still committed. That's a huge deal.
That's huge for you to have discovered that and the importance of it in your dream clients and chain of beliefs and everywhere. It's vital. It's valuable.
Yep. Thank you. Truth is intimacy. Yep. So the next stage is the believer. Now, the believer, they have their business started. I don't care. It could be $10, but the whole thing is they're under 100,000 in revenue. And they might still have this problem with identifying who their ideal customer is. And that, as you can see, this is I wrote this before Atlas on all this with dream clients. So it all has to update, but it's the same thing. They don't know who their dream client is, and they are trapped because they're wearing way too many hats. Their focus and direction, they don't have any of that. And they don't have priority in operating, or they don't have priorities. They're always reacting to things, right? Opening up emails or whatever it is. There's no structure to anything. And they're always in survival. They're trying to get to the next day, the next month. Doesn't matter. Just let me get through this week, Joey, and then I'll look at Atlas, or I'll learn how to write copy, or whatever. They're always in that stage. And they have lost some of the battles, which is cool, but this is where I'm talking about. They're unwilling to accept defeat. And this is where I lived for many, many years. This is where I was. Inspired, I went through very quickly, and this is where I was. And it was kind of a cool idea for me to look at this, because I thought, as I was beginning this, because I was going to ask you the same thing, where do you identify, Scott? Because the truth is the truth. And I was going to say, I'm the believer. But then I looked at it and go, wait a minute, no, that's not me anymore. Even though there's a lot of things that are still true about me in that area, I'm not in the believer stage. What about you?
Well, I was, thank you for saying that, because I was going to say the same thing as you're reading through them. I'm like, okay, yeah, some of that is me, but I don't necessarily think. The first one definitely was not me. This one is, there's a few pieces in here that I relate to, that's still me. And, so as we move on to the next two, it's important that we can be in different pieces of these at the same time.
Yeah, but if you had to choose one, this is why when you see them, I'd like for you to, if you had to choose one, which one would you be? I think the revenues are the big pieces of them. Like if you're under 100,000 in revenue, this is where my dream clients usually live, right here.
Right.
This is where they are. They're between the inspired and the believers. That's where they live. Kind of like the 3 and 4, right? Of the chain of the levels of awareness. They're kind of in the middle right there. This is where they live.
I'll let you know, go through all of them.
Yeah, for sure. The achiever now is, this is the person who's already crossed their 100,000, their first 100,000, and now they're looking towards $500,000. They're making money, but they're undercharging to satisfy way too many customers. This is where I was as well. And as you know, Atlas changed all that for me, but this is where I was. Because now, spoiler alert, this is where I am. This is who I am. I'm the achiever right now. I still lack proper systems in terms of the back end of the company. As you know, I'm building all that stuff out. I still do a lot of the work myself. I need to outsource so I can grow. And that's, this, Scott. This is exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm outsourcing. I'm doing other things, right? And I always feel that, there's just one big thing away from breaking through. I don't really feel that anymore, but they could. There's people in this area where they're like, if they're, let me go back and explain this. If they're like too many different customers and too many different ideas and programs and lead magnets and all that stuff, that's where the next one fits in, where like, I'm only just one away. I'm one funnel away, right? That's when they're there. So that I no longer have that, because I've simplified and now I don't have all these other pieces going. And the desire for these people are focus, reducing the hours, making more money, because we have a mission to serve. and put systems in place so that allows them to have more freedom.
So I relate to some in here as well.
Yep, I
And,
figured you would.
oh, yeah, I agree with you. I don't do a lot of the work myself. I outsource a lot of my stuff. Um, you know, yeah. So I've got a lot of it in place, but I can relate to this one as well. So there's pieces from each one. So let's see what the next one is, unless we're not done with this.
Nope, that's cool. I just wanted to see if you had any input on this about it, but maybe we can come back and talk about them too. So the
Yeah.
last one is the leader. The leader, this is a person who's cracked the sales code and they're on their way to their first $1 million in revenue. They figured out everything about their dream client. They have way more focus. They have some people doing the work, but not enough to stop them, to step them out of the daily operations. That's why you hear me say a lot of times, and it's basically from Alex Harmozy, but you know, do everything until you hit $1 million. Because it's still you. No matter if you have outsourcing and all these other things, it's still you up to $1 million. You can't step
Yep.
out of it. So they're still required to make team decisions and all these things, and they're not truly free from all of those operational pieces yet. So their desire is to reduce working hours and have more freedom. Again, that's where they want to get to. You know, every of the higher masterminds that I am part of, one of the biggest, the simplest lines that comes up there, or the simplest, I guess, goal is, how do I fire myself? Like, that's what they're trying to do. And that's what the $1 million is. Like, it's for some people listening to this right now, it might seem like, holy crap, that's a lot of money, or out of their mindset and all this. And it used to be out of my mindset as well, but it's nothing. Like, this is, you getting to $1 million, there's still a lot of things happening in play, and you're still not free. In fact, you might be even worse off. You know, like, I know people that have $250,000 businesses that are way more happier and free than someone who has $1 million business.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the
Totally.
four. Which one do you identify with the most if you had to choose where you are today?
Put them all back up.
No problem. So
Because
we know it's not the inspired, but
no,
here's
it's
the
not inspired. I'd say it's gosh, Joey, because there's like some in the believer, some in the achiever, and some in the leader. It's
I know.
like I need to. I want to create a new category and call it the Achleveler. Um,
Here's the achiever.
yeah. So there's some in the achiever, there's some in the leader, and there's so. Do I have to pick one?
Well, you don't have to, but it would just be fun to do it. Like, for me, when it comes down to this, you're right. Like, in both of the believers and achievers, there's identifiers there for me, and I'm going to work around maybe making this into another chart later on. But for me, the deciding factor is the revenue. That's where I go. Well,
If
here's where
if
I am.
I were to choose one, it would be the achiever. If I had to choose one of the four.
Right. Okay. Cool.
What about
And
anybody watching? What about you? Which one are you, Joey?
I am the achiever as well.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
But you know, some parts there that I've already crossed out. Like, I started. So let's talk about them. Like, so it's not that every single piece of this you have to check off, as we're saying. So, like,
yeah,
when I moved from the first 100,000 into this area, I was making money and I was undercharging, but I don't
right,
anymore. So I
yep,
changed that, and I was trying to satisfy too many customers. Right, there was way too many things going on, and I simplified.
yep,
So I no longer am in that area of being trying to satisfy too many different customers. So that took away all of the, man, if I could just get one more one-on-one client, one more
yeah,
sale up, or one more program.
yeah,
I said, screw it. I'm going to create one program for one person, and that's it, and create systems and all that stuff around it. And now it's easy to build my back end systems and to get people to do the work, because it's all around one thing.
What's interesting here, Joey, is as I look at them, if they had little radio boxes next to them,
Mm-hmm.
then I check the ones that I've already accomplished and say, okay, I need to work on these in the different ones because that's what I'm seeing here throughout is there's a couple in each one that I've already got, but there's, I
Well,
relate
which
to
one
you.
in the achiever, because since we're on it, are the ones that you need to work on? Are
Well, I
you,
look at desire. I talked about that right before we got on is the number of hours that I want to put into it, make more money, and the systems are in place. It's just a matter of I still have to figure out going back to the one before it. So, yeah, I undercharged, but in the believer there, it's haven't fully identified the ideal customer, the dream client. You got to change that verbiage.
yeah, yeah, that's what I said. I have to change
I
it.
know. Yeah, so that to me is where I'm at yet again. Is so from the believer part, I would check that box, and I don't wear too many hats, and I've got focus and direction. Um,
Well, okay, so how do you have focus and direction? I'm just challenging you on it without knowing who the ideal customer is or the dream client is.
because my focus right now is on that and that alone.
Okay, cool.
That's what this year is about. So that's what I mean. I don't know who it is, but that's my focus. I'm not worrying about building a YouTube channel or going live, every day or building this or this channel or that. The focus is simply on what's the most important thing, who's the dream client. So that's where, there's focus and the direction is nothing happens until that's figured out.
Yeah, see, like when I was looking at this and aside from the money piece of it, the revenue, I would have said you're in the believer only because the battles, the resilient, the unwilling to give up, the stuff that's happened with the business over the last little while for you and trying
Yeah.
to survive, like getting to the next day, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
That's why I would have put you in the believer
Yeah,
for me
like I said,
personally.
that's why I said, "Can I choose?" You said, "No, you got to choose one."
Yeah,
I
but
would have
that's what I mean. If
said,
I had to choose one, it would be the believer more than the achiever
"Yeah,
for you.
yeah,
But it's cool. Like you're saying you're in the achievers. And Kay, thank you for playing along with us. She says that she's in the believer based on the revenue. What about the other parts though? Forget the revenue now, Kay. What about the other pieces of the believer? Do you identify with those? And maybe like Scott's right, like how many of those, if you check them off, identify, and maybe that's a way to indicate where you need more help and where you land. The revenue piece is just kind of there as a benchmark, I guess,
yeah,
because you could be like $500,000 or close to a million and still be in the believer phase
yeah."
because you're like you have no priorities, you're like still wearing all the hats, you're not hiring anybody, like all these things.
Right, you got 18 different things going on, and blah
Yeah.
blah blah. Yeah,
So Kay feels I feel like I finally figured out who my ideal customer is, dream client. I've just let go of wearing too many hats. Perfect. I have I have now no focus and direction because I am clear on the client and what my niche is. I now have focus. Right? Is that
right.
what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I now have
So
focus.
so then are you in so she says also loss in battles very so you're in the believer because of all these things. Is that right, Kay? Is that what I'm reading? Still struggling at times to generate the consistent and predictable income with the online journey. Yeah, so you're probably in the believer phase more than anything, forgetting even the revenue. Yeah, cool. So anything that comes up for you, Scott, as you were kind of walking through, that we can pick apart, talk about, like in the achiever. So maybe there's something there that you want to expand on for yourself,
Uh,
like why you would say you're there, and maybe we'll talk about that.
I would probably say it's at this point the because it's where I'm at. What's the one thing that
Mm-hmm.
is right there that is not there yet? That's what the focus is on. What is the one thing that I'm going to do? So I could probably say that they're one. instead of client sale away, it's the one thing away from the breakthrough, because I know that's what it is for me, is not doing everything. And so it's the clarity and focus on what is the one thing. I mean, you say here one client, one sale away, but the breakthrough for me will be when I finally decide is, okay, who am I and what am I doing?
Right. So you're in that, you're making money, but you're, forget the undercharging for a second, but you're just satisfying too many different customers.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
There's
And
not
that's
just,
where, yeah, that's why in the desire, the focus is there. That's why that word is there, because you could be making a whole bunch of money. And this, again, like there's pieces of people who are in my world, in Atlas and whatever, that are like this. They're like, okay, I'm making money and everything else, but they are scattered. Look at Chaim. Chaim was one of the dudes. He had all these things going on. And I'm like, let's narrow things down, man. Let's simplify. And boom, 18 months later, no, it wasn't 18 months, whatever it was less than 12 months.
right.
He's at 500,000 in revenue, even more now.
Yep.
Like that's a huge difference from making money and trying to do everything to focusing on one thing and now having more time and freedom and all that.
Yeah. Yep.
What about anybody else? Anybody else identify with anything there? I think for the believer, like this is a big one. Like when you're in this stage, it's one of the hardest growth stages ever. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, totally. Totally and completely, because you're wearing too many hats and you have to make the money and you're still undercharging. So it's difficult to get out of that, because that's where it involves deciding, like you said with Chaim, focus on one thing. Stop wearing so many hats. Stop undercharging. And that's a tough part for people to get out of. And that's kind of a lot of the foundation of what you teach, is get out of that whole insanity that the whole digital world has put people in. Is you got to do all these things. You got to do 1,000 things, and you got to do this, and you got to have these and that, and this, and that, and that, and that, and that. And so that's what I believe about this is.
Okay, well, this is interesting. So only 2 of the believer things apply to you right now. Okay, so that means that you're in the achiever area then, aside from the money. But what what do you need to work on in the achiever? I'm curious if you want to share that. Like, so what, if you want to see them again, like what is for you, what is the achiever that you identify with more, that you would say you're in this zone? If you want to share that.
You asking Kay or me or both?
I'm asking Kay.
Good.
Because she said only 2 of the things in the believer.
Right. The achiever. Right.
Identify with her. So I would say, okay, you're in the achiever. You just haven't made, the $100,000 yet, or consistently, and that's cool, because you got everything else in place, but you don't have all these other things. But then again, I gotta look at it. Like I gotta really think now, Scott, about these challenges that we're all coming up with. Well, I'm kind of there. I haven't made the money there, but I'm over there, and I got to look at them in a more focused way to say, is that really true? Like if you don't have, and again, I'm not arguing with anybody, but I'm just thinking out loud myself, is if you identify your dream client here, then you can't have, if you're over here and you're charging too many customers, it means you haven't identified the dream client yet.
Well, but let's say that you've got a bunch of customers and you're undercharging to make money. Then you figure out who your dream client is.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to move towards that. It's not like, hey, I know who my dream client is, and then the next day it's like, boom, they all show up and life is great. So once you've identified it, you've obviously got to get out there and learn the whole, prefluence and benefit breadcrumbs and 4% multipliers and all the things to attract them to you so that they come and find you.
Yeah, probably the whole thing has to go, like the achiever part where they're satisfying too many different customers needs to move over to the believers. That piece has to move over.
I'd love to see check boxes and then look at all four and just check them off and then see, like, okay, where do I have the most checks? Where do I have the least checks? That just would be something I'd play with.
Mm-hmm.
And Kay, yeah.
So, okay, what are you saying here? I'll let you read that, Scott.
Kay says, so if this makes sense, I have recently shifted a lot of the believer challenges, but it's recent. So I'm moving into the achieving state, but I haven't generated the income yet. I am developing focused systems, but since I don't have a lot of customers yet, I don't have a need to outsource yet. But I'm setting things up so that it's easy to go in that direction when I do get customers. Great, well put. Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, that's interesting, Joey, watching Kay go through it and look at, okay, I got this, but I don't have this. And I have this in place because it just got in place, but that doesn't move me to the next thing because I'm still in this place.
Mm-hmm.
So very intriguing, these four.
Yeah, and by the way, thank you for playing along with me and helping me reflush this out, because this was many years ago I did this, and then now I know more about the clients. It's not that it's going to change a lot, but I know a little bit more about the dream clients and where they come in the stages, and what the challenges are. Because when I first did this, I was pretty much at the cusp, at the beginning of the believer stage. Like there's no money at all whatsoever, totally committed, but it was like zero. And so I wasn't even close to 100,000 or anything. And then I had obviously a lot of things going on. So I was totally stuck in that phase. And now I'm out of it, and I know what it's like to go through it. And there's a couple of things that are probably missing or maybe need to be moved over to it so people can identify with it more.
Well, Joey, it's kind of like when we talked about the four C's at the top of the hour of the show, the other top of the hour. And in the commitment stage, we talked about there's fear, there's uncertainty, there's anxiety, there's stress. And I think Kay hit it here was it's almost like we need to see the transitional traits for each stage. So like if you're here and you haven't identified your dream client, or you have, but you don't have this in place, then this is kind of what is the transition to it.
The
Just the
transition, yeah. So the transition on the believer is to hit the 100K milestone. That was I want to make sure that I hit 100K. Like that was the first transition I have here, and maybe that has to change. But the desire, or sorry, in the achiever, it's really clear, because the achiever is this: focus, reduce hours. That's the transition to get into the next phase. Make
okay.
more money, put systems in place, allow them to have more time and freedom.
Yep.
That's what the
That's
achiever is going for, which is
right.
where
So
I am. That's what I'm trying to do.
yeah. So then the transitional trait is desire down there because the
Yes.
transition from that's what you need to do. And if you look at each one of them, the bottom piece is what it requires to get there. Because if I want focus because I lack it, I don't have the money, I'm undercharging. So if I focus, reduce my hours, make more money, put systems in place. So you've taken all of those and saying, okay, for me to get to the leader, I need to accomplish these things in the achiever. So that
Yeah.
makes a lot.
So yeah. So then, yeah. So like most people in the 100,000, this is the way I thought about it, and even when I'm speaking to people now, they don't really care how they get to the 100,000. Like they're trying to do everything. I'm gonna,
Right.
how many courses and how many things they're gonna sell and all that kind of stuff. So if you are there, well, this is way before Atlas. So I'm trying to, you know, help them even in the believer stage to not get scrambled. But let's pretend that they are, and even where I was. So I came into this phase, I was making money, but I was too many clients. So I started the achiever at this phase. I'm making money, but I've got way too many clients, or I'm doing too many things.
Right.
Right. So the dream client thing wasn't a thing when I did this. Now it's a little bit more different. So it was like, well, maybe that clarity on, well, are you working with one type of client, goes into the achiever phase now, instead of the believer phase where they're not really clear on who the dream client is. And that could still be there, but they don't have clarity on who it is. Because if you're getting to this phase working with too many people, like you are now, like you said, then right, that's where you're starting the achiever. And now you're trying to
Right.
figure out, okay, wait a minute, I'm going to now reduce this. I still don't know who it is that I want to focus on and what I want to do, but that's my goal,
Right.
to get out of the achiever phase to go to the leader. Is that right? Would you?
I agree totally and completely. To get out of the achiever stage, I need to reduce my hours, not work with so many different types of people,
Mm-hmm.
make money, and then once I figure that out, put the systems in place that allow me to have more freedom to show up and do the one thing and serve that one person.
Right.
Exactly, totally, completely.
You want to read that one?
Sure. Kay says it's nice that in the believer stage, you've helped me simplify. So when I get to the 100,000 stage, I won't have the challenge of having to reduce hours or simplify or serve because I'm already there in the believer stage. Exactly.
Yeah, see, these are brand new. Okay, so thank you for saying that because I'm learning as we go through this too, of like the new things that may have to happen for me, because this is all my worldview of my clients or people coming into my world of who they need to be or where they are. And so if I can help somebody simplify before they get to the achiever part of it, then it's really not about the two different customers anymore. It's more about systems and structures and pulling themselves out of the business, that kind of thing, and getting more freedom. That's where the
Joey,
achiever would come in.
this is going to morph into something very valuable because I see it not only for the entrepreneur, but then, like we talked about in the beginning, is somebody really committed? And
Yeah.
if they're committed, then you're going to work with them. But here, in looking at these, is you could almost turn this into, well, what is my client? It doesn't necessarily have to be those four things, the exact achiever, leader, believer, but it could be some kind of like matrix where you look at your client and say, where are they? And do I
Yes.
want somebody in column one or do I want them in column three? Where do you want them to be? Like you said, you don't want the ones in the first one because they're just, that's not where they're at for you.
Yeah. I think that even when people download this or they see it, uh, I've had people comment themselves and they say, I'm in this stage. This is where I am. But I've also had them, almost every single one of them, say, I have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but I'm more in this stage. They truly self-identify where they are, which is kind of cool to see. Kay says,
So, what does it look like when one's passion is delivering the cohort? Is that the marketing task get outsourced, but the business owner still delivers the cohort?
passion is delivering the cohort. No, the marketing task is not the delivery. The
No, I
marketing
think
task,
think she's saying that outsourcing the marketing task,
yeah,
but the talent who has the passion delivers the cohort.
yeah,
It's
just
kind of
outsource.
like, yeah, you can eventually get somebody to do some of the initial things before they get to you. Like, some of the dudes and dudettes we talk about, you don't get to talk to them until you've gone through a questionnaire like you have developed. Or for some of the higher ends, you go through their person before they get to you. And I'm not saying that that's how
Mm-hmm.
to do it, but that
Mm-hmm.
that would be what the marketing task or developing whatever the content that goes
Mm-hmm.
out there, that your benefit breadcrumbs, your prefluence, where somebody eventually could do that. So it's like, Joey, you record the thing and then you give it to your team and say, hey, strip out all the cool things and put this out there for me.
Yeah, like it all depends on what marketing means, the context of what marketing is for UK.
Right.
So, yeah, like task oriented stuff for sure. The marketing piece, I'm not convinced yet that we can outsource that piece of it. I think that we have to be in that prefluence piece of it to a degree. Like when you get to the $1 million levels, like the Alex Hermosis and
Right.
stuff,
Yeah.
there's things in place where, yeah, this person knows exactly what I need to be pulled out of my videos, that kind of thing. But if you're in the believer stage and the achiever, I'm not really sure that that can happen. I don't know if that's what you're asking to pull yourself out of that, and you just want to show up. You know,
I think, Joey, it goes also to, I mean, marketing is a pretty big umbrella, all
yeah,
inclusive.
it's what does it mean?
Yeah, it's like, I wouldn't outsource to somebody to talk to somebody that wanted to hire me for a project or whatever. It would be like, no, you're going to talk to me and see what if this is a fit, because nobody else is going to. Again, it depends. Hey, Jeffrey, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
I don't see him here, but oh no, there he is. There, cool. Hey, Jeffrey,
Yeah.
nice to see you, man. Yeah, it's like there's no one right answer for this,
No, no.
because like for me, the marketing piece of it is if you could show up, if you have somebody who's doing marketing, whatever that means to you, Kay, and you're able to just show up and deliver, and people are coming in and it all works, then why not? Like
Yeah.
that's absolutely cool. You're getting heart center people in there, and it's not like you don't hire a lead gen company and they're like, oh well, all that kind of stuff. It's just that they are you out there. They're doing part of that piece for you. Then that it's cool. I don't know how effective it is because I haven't done it, so that's why I can't speak to it.
Yeah. Well,
And even
Joey,
when I see people like Steve Sims, we talked about last week, and he's out doing it himself. Like he said to us, which opened my eyes, about being on all the channels and all these things, and he was like, because me, I'm like, you don't have to be on all these channels, and he's basically on all the channels, whatever you can. He's like, dude, it takes me less than 5 minutes. I'm making my coffee and all my socials are posted, because what he does, which is why I'm now like, okay, I'm gonna do the exact same thing then, just the same exact post everywhere.
right.
And so I was trying to be more of, well, this one needs a vertical thing, this one needs a square one, this one needs a landscape one, this one needs that. No, screw it. I'm putting the whole thing up, and now it's easy. So okay, I can be on everything too. I don't
Yeah.
focus on being the YouTube expert or the LinkedIn expert, right? But I'm doing my marketing. I'm saying, okay, this is the post I want to put up, or this is the quote I want to say today, or whatever, and I throw it up there, and it takes me about half an hour every day. And then the better right now, because of the systems. Like, let's go back to this one. Yeah, there it is. Right, the lack of proper systems, that's becoming a system. So as you know, Notion is my go-to, and I'm building systems to now be able to do this within minutes. And so as I'm doing this thing, I'm building that system so I could do more of giving myself more freedom, even though it looks like, well, shoot, you're doing all this marketing. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not really doing it. Right. So like, anyway.
Joey, it's like years back. I remember I got Traffic Geyser from Mike Filsame,
Yeah.
and I bought it so I could get Brendan Burchard's Total Product Blueprint. And I used Traffic Geyser, and it did that. I would make a post, and it would put it out everywhere. And then you got a
Mm-hmm.
HubSpot, and you got all these things, which is again a system. Once you know, going back, who is that ideal customer, the dream client, and what's the content you're going to put out there to attract them. Then it makes sense to put a system in that puts it out to all the different platforms. Why? Because somebody might see it on a platform. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Rosa,
I think.
Rosa, happy Tuesday. That's Rosa, Facebook
Oh,
user. If you
hey,
know
Rosa.
that.
And no, I didn't know it because it's just a Facebook user, but that's okay. Good to see you, Rosa. Wow. Some names showing up. Some alumni.
Yeah, the alumni. So,
Yeah. It's.
Joey, why is this so important? I mean, you spent a lot of time, you built this years ago, and now it's coming back. Why is this so important, and who is this important to?
I think it's important for me. It's important to me, first of all, but I think it's also important for anybody because I use it as a marketing tool, right? So let me go back to the main, this piece right here is a marketing tool for me. So like it's kind of a lead magnet, but they don't have to opt in for it. But it's like, oh, who's Joey? Who does Joey work with? And so when people read it, they can identify themselves and either choose to stay in my world or not. So that's why it's kind of a mission statement. If you look at the bottom, it's kind of everything. Like, here's who Joey is. Here's who he can help. So it's a marketing thing for me. It's telling people who my dream client is. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. It's kind of like I was telling you about a webinar that I watched on silence in the background, and it goes to the who is this for and who is this not for. So you're kind of putting this forth and saying, here's who I help, and where
That's
do you
right.
fit in? So I like it. I think it's a great tool for anybody to create something of their own, so that it is a great marketing tool. Take a look at this. Here's the 4 stages of heart-centered entrepreneur. Where do you fit?
Yeah, where do you fit?
And then,
And I've had a lot of discussions with inspired people
yeah,
who've then convinced me that they are committed. I'm like, so you're all here, but you're probably not a right fit. And then they're like, no, this is this. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you're fitting actually these other pieces of the believer. So like, like they self-identify. And some people will say, yeah, you're right. I'm absolutely in the inspired stage, and I'm not ready to make any commitment whatsoever to anything, and blah, blah, blah. So they self-identify. And this is not a bad conversation. It helps both of us.
yeah. And what I definitely see it doing too is, Joey, yeah, the conversation becomes so much easier. Like Seth Godin says, you got to jump through a couple of hurdles,
Hmm.
and I need to know who you are. You need to know who you are, so that when we have the conversation, you're like, so where do you fit in? I'm a this. Well, why do you think you're that? And tell me about the desire piece, and then you find out if there's a commitment. Apparently, Jeffrey's getting married
Yeah,
Friday.
congratulations, Jeffrey.
Congratulations, Jeffrey. That's fantastic. Wonderful. Good
So,
for you. That's exciting stuff to
to
find
steal
someone.
Jeffrey's thunder, Kay says that it gives her a roadmap of where I want to go and helps me to see how I've moved from the inspired to the believer and how I'm soon to be achiever. Right, exactly. I think that give props up to Jeffrey again here. Congratulations. I think it's also part and parcel of for yourself to really identify the areas. Remember, we talked about this, Scott, a couple of weeks ago, and we were debating on when to let them go. Remember that? And you were like,
Yeah,
I never let them go. And I'm like, I do. I let them go to certain because that's not what my genius is. And this is
yeah,
what helps me identify where can I actually help somebody with the confidence that I have to get them to the level that they need to be at. Because if somebody comes in and they're at the leader phase and they've cracked the sales code and all these other things, I can still help them even though I haven't made $1 million in revenue per year myself.
right.
Because so let's debate that, or not debate it, but like, would you agree? So let's go back to the right here. Okay. So if someone is in this phase and they come to me and they say, I need your help, by reading those definitions or one or two of them, would you think, and you can say yes or no, that I can help them based on where they are?
Yes.
I do too.
Yeah, I know you can, because they've figured out the sales code. They know who their ideal client is. They have more focus. They've got some people doing work, which is what you have now. So, but not enough for them to step out of the daily ops. That's you. So you're right there with them.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Because my revenue may not be there, but my passion and productivity, all that stuff, and what I do in the background to try to get me out of the achiever to get into the leader will help the leaders already because
but
they haven't done it.
there's an important piece here too, Joey. The desire piece. You figured that one out.
Yeah.
So for them, you can help them by helping them figure out how to reduce hours and have more freedom, like you do. You
Right.
just don't happen to gotten to the $1 million a year yet.
Right.
So you've got everything else figured out that you can help them. So that's
Right.
an important piece as well.
And so yeah, so that to this whole discussion is this is going to help you. It's going to help your clients identify themselves to you. They can pinpoint exactly where they are. And if you're truthful, remember I said at the beginning of this, everything begins with the truth. That I'm no longer scared or not or unconfident. What's the word? Non-confident, whatever. That I can't help somebody who's making $1 million. I know I can help them. Now, if there's somebody says, "Can you make me scale to 10 million?" No, like I'm going to send you to somebody else, right? That's not my genius. But if you're making $1 million and you can't crack that million because of all those other things, I can certainly help you. But that's not where my most of my clients are. But I'll
And
still
by the way,
take them on.
unconfident happens to be a real word.
All
So,
right.
so you got it.
Amazing. Unconfident. Let's see. So Kay says, okay, concept can be applied to the stages of any progression with any industry, so it can help us. Exactly.
That's the beauty of this. You're spot on, Kay. Because yeah, you can build this thing for your clients and have them look at it and then have conversations with them. Doesn't have to be the same thing, or it could be the same thing. And you change it, say, check the boxes. Where are you at? Well, it's like Kay did. She was here, and then she's here, and she's about to move over to here. And then that's where you go, want some help with that?
Right. And even with the checkbox theory or whatever, even if it's a like an intake form or something like that, and you know that these are the 4 stages, and for me, the first stage is somebody that I really can't help, because that's just not where my genius is, and they check off all those things and identify themselves there, then that's probably going to be a short conversation on our clarity call or whatever, right?
Yeah,
And it's not like I'm
exactly.
going to ignore them, but it's like I really can't help them. So there's no need for me to try to convince them or push them or anything else if they're stuck in that zone for me.
No, totally, completely. And by having that set up in advance, it makes it so much easier to even,
Right.
are you going to, is it worth, like you said, if everyone checks, I'm in the first one, no ifs, ands, or buts. How much
Hmm.
time do you want to, maybe they're not there yet where it's time for a discovery clarity thing you call. Don't
Yeah.
know.
And you don't even have to have it set up this way. Like you could have a
Right,
questionnaire and there's multiple choice. And you're going to know by the answers,
right.
A is all section 1, right? Like if they choose
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So
So
then you'll
totally.
know it's like, okay, so they don't have to really see that if they don't want to. But yeah, it's just more identifying who you can work with at what stage and where they are so that you can just step into your passion. Right, okay? I need to show this to Angela, who I think really needs Academy. Yeah, so this will also help me as an evangelist of your work to know if they're at a place to really be serious about working with you. Yeah. So that most people are in the Academy. Okay. I'm glad you brought that up. So look, so if you look at this, okay, this is where they are. They're the believers. Why? A, they've already invested into Academy. Like that's a big piece. That's commitment. And they're started of the business, but they're under 100,000. And all of that stuff basically is where the Academy people are. And if you were, who's in? Maybe somebody is here that is in Academy that could verify it. But if you've seen the people in there, that's what they're all about. Like discussions are all around this stuff. And the very first thing that they want is to hit the $10,000 a month, basically a month. And this is where I can help them every day, or like the best is where I can help these people and then pull them into the achiever quickly.
Yeah, and I love Kay's point here as well. Is it's a good tool for somebody to go, hey, I think you're this, and you'd be a good fit, or you know what, I think you're here, I don't think you'd be a good fit.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Good stuff.
Wow, that was a great conversation. Thank you for for playing along with us. Yeah, I identify who your dream client is. The more you understand the dream client DNA, this is where all this information that I'm giving, that and this is from the DNA and is from the anti-avatar stuff. Right, that's
Yep,
all it's from. It's like these are the
it is.
people I don't want to work with or I can't work with, and put them over here into this area to
Yep.
understand that these whatever you want to call it, characteristics or qualifiers don't really help both of us because they're in that inspired stage for me.
Exactly. It was awesome. Thank you, Collie and Kay and Rosa and Jeffrey, and congratulations again. This was an incredible show. 177 approaching 180 soon.
Wow.
Holy, that's commitment.
You are welcome. We will see you next Tuesday at the same time, and who knows what we're going to talk about. Let us know if you want by hashtag live, hashtag replay. By the way, if you're watching us in either of those, hashtag live or hashtag replay. And I'm going to give one little plug to the Facebook group. If you are not part of our Facebook group,
if you're not part of the Facebook group, join the Facebook group. Get the support of these kind of people that you see showing up, that are heart-centered, that support, that believe in making dream clients in your life to make your business easier and your life more amazing.
way to go. I love that outro. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. We will see you next Tuesday.